everybody, Mr. Boma back to answer another one of those frequently asked questions. My inbox is literally overflowing. Let's take a look and see what we've got. What markers should I use? Okay, there are basically 3 different kinds of markers that you can use with balloons. The first are over here. These are permanent markers. Most of the time you'll find Sharpies are what people use in terms of permanent markers. This one is called Mark It by Bic, M-A-R-K-I-T, Mark It by Bic. So you've got Sharpies, you've got Mark It. In the center here we have dry erase markers represented by Expo. Some dry erase markers you'll find will work, some dry erase don't work so well. And then over here we have paint pens. We've got the Galaxy marker and we've got the Edding 750. The Edding 750 is kind of the holy grail of balloon markers or pens. They're paint markers, and a lot of paint markers you will find will not work because the solvent in them actually eats away at the balloon. So the Edding does not have that kind of solvent in it. The solvent doesn't affect the balloon, and you get really good coverage from it, and it dries pretty quickly. So let's take a look at some of these. Sharpies come in lots and lots of different colors. They dry quickly. There's clickable Sharpies if you don't like having to take the caps off of pens. Sharpie coverage is pretty darn good when the pen is relatively new. As the pens get older, the coverage isn't so good, but that's true of any pen. You will find that some colors don't dry as quickly as others. This kind of magenta red kind of color does not dry nearly as quickly as the black. The black dries pretty darn quickly. This magenta will stay wet for quite a while longer. The same thing is true of the Bic Mark It pens. You get pretty good coverage from them, but most of the colors of Mark It take a while to dry. The Sharpies tend to dry faster than the Mark It. I'm going to use a little tissue here and see. Okay, the black is dry. Well, the red is pretty dry. The yellow is not. Here's the thing about permanent markers. They are dry now. Okay, I've wiped off any excess. So what's on there is dry. If the balloon deflates, however, then that ink that was formerly dry, can you see that there on the tissue? So it was dry, now it's coming off again. So I've personally never had a problem with this getting on clothes or hands or anything like that, but I've heard stories. I heard, actually somebody told a horror story about one of their friends. Of course, it's always a friend of a friend or something when you hear these stories, but they were doing balloons at a wedding, and the flower girl had gotten a balloon and then raced over to the bride and gave her a hug, and the balloon popped and the Sharpie got all over the bride's dress. So, don't know if that's true or apocryphal, but that is something to be aware of. Okay, the Expos, the dry erase, again, they come in a lot of colors, not quite as many colors as the permanent markers, the Sharpies. These have chisel tips, so they're wider tips. They give pretty good coverage when they're new, but if the ink is starting to run out, like on this black one, the coverage isn't so great. So you may find that your coverage is not going to be as good with an Expo marker as it is with the Sharpie. Expo does make finer tip, so if you want a finer tipped pen, you can get the finer tipped Expo, but I don't think they're available in as many colors as the larger tip. These do dry relatively quickly. Once they are dry, you can wet a tissue. So let's see. Those are dry. Okay, the green wasn't quite dry. But if you wet a tissue, then you can erase a bit. But balloons are not like a dry erase board. One of the reasons a dry erase board works as it does is because it's non-porous. Well, balloons are porous. Oh, there, the purple came off really easy. Okay, so you can erase your work if you've done it in dry erase. Okay, these are dry now. I'm going to go ahead and let the air out, and we'll see if they reliquify the way that the Sharpies do. So I'll grab a new tissue, and look, not coming off. So, or very, very little. What does come off looks like it's maybe almost a powder that's coming off of there. So, no problem with reliquifying the way that the Sharpie was reliquifying. So that's good. Last we have our white paint markers. So this is a Galaxy marker. It says paint like ink. So I guess it's not actually paint, but it's paint like. So Galaxies you can find on Amazon, lots of other places have Galaxies. Galaxies do come in some other colors as well. They dry relatively quickly. Coverage is okay, but not great. Compare that to the Eddings. The thing about the Galaxy, though, I didn't have to shake this or prime it or anything like that. The Eddings marker, Eddings you have to shake. But then coverage from the Eddings, especially if you kind of blot them. I actually use the Eddings around my house, like if the white trim around my windows or doors or anything needs touching up, I'll use an Eddings for that. Eddings does have colors, but you're most likely to just find white and black. One of the nice things about the paint pens is once they dry, you can then color on them with Sharpies. But you need to let them dry first. If you color on that white with a Sharpie before the white is dried, then it coats the tip of the Sharpie and you've ruined your Sharpie. These will not reliquify when the balloon is deflated, so that's good. It just might take a little bit longer for the paint marker to dry than it does for... Oh, no, those are pretty dry already. So they're a little bit tacky. But that's pretty darn good. So those are the kinds of markers that that you can use, that I have used in the past and still use. You may have trouble finding the Eddings here in the United States, the Edding 750. You're probably, the places that you'll find them are balloon stores. They import them specifically for use on balloons, but you're not going to find them at some place like Hobby Lobby, unfortunately, or even on Amazon. You won't find the Edding 750. So those are your options. Hopefully this has been informative, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.